How does a narcissist mother control the family after the narcissist has passed? In this video, I'm going to share someone's experience of their narcissist's mother way of controlling the events in the family after they passed. This is Carol Rathel, Recovery with Self-Love channel, because self-love is the most important thing to do. I had to change the channel name because of the changes of YouTube rules for creators. So, here is a story about how a deceased mother is still creating conflict and havoc within a family after she passed away. If this is happening for you now, or could be in the future, there is hope that you can nullify these effects, so watch till the end. For keeping this person's details private, I'm going to use a false name, Jane. Jane's mother passed away recently, and the mother, who was a very controlling and vindictive narcissist, had written a will that set the family up for a real mess. In fact, it was very clearly intended to divide a wedge between the family. For her daughters, she gave a tiny, pitiful amount. These daughters are still carrying the wounds of her abuse, and they're both in very ill health, particularly mentally. And one of them is very poor due to a very serious health condition. The estate was divided this way. One very insignificant amount going to Jane and her sister, and 2 of the grandchildren. The remaining amount, which is quite large, was given to the 2 eldest children of each family, who happened to be highly successful in their work and didn't need the money. Now, of course, when the will was shown to the family, there was a lot of pain experienced. It opened the wounds of Jane and her sister very wide, and the sense of betrayal was profound. Jane, being the one that was unwell with no financial security, was devastated. It brought up the fear of being abandoned, which was a fear that was instilled in her because her mother never gave her any emotional support, laughed when she fell or was injured as a child, and basically completely ignored her emotional needs. Jane and her sister both experienced outrage that 2 of the grandchildren had been slighted. How does the control come in? Jane attended her mother in hospital a year or so before she passed, and a discussion came up about the many changes her mother had made in her will over time. Jane was originally promised half the estate in the past, which included the house she rented from her mother, which had been promised to her, but she needed to set some boundaries about the raising of a child, which her mother interfered with greatly, and of course if Jane didn't do what the mother insisted she do, she got the cold shoulder and the big sulks, just like narcissists do. Jane had raised some questions that needed to be discussed, but instead her mother kicked her out and took away her inheritance. While Jane was attending her in hospital, she asked her mother why that happened, and her mother said, "Because you didn't deserve it anymore," with a smile on her face. Jane hadn't done anything wrong. She just needed to set boundaries. So Jane responded, "That was very vindictive." Her mother smirked and nodded her head. Something occurs to narcissists as they age. This particular one developed Alzheimer's. People with Alzheimer's tend to deteriorate one of 2 ways. They either become pleasantly pixelated, a term my old boss in the geriatric department of the past used to call those who are ultra nice and pleasant. The other way they tend to go is to be mean and nasty. This particular narcissist mother was the type that was mean and nasty. Jane's sister had a report from a doctor while the mother was in hospital, declaring her mentally unfit to handle her affairs a few months before she wrote her latest will. So they knew they could contest it and get the previous will declared the correct will. And they became aware from talking to the lawyer that a family could do a deed change if all the beneficiaries of the will were in agreement and submitted a document to change the disbursement of money, so there would be no need to spend money on lawyers contesting the will in court. So they proposed this to their family on a chat. What happened next was astonishing and broke their hearts all over again. Let me say right now that the narcissist knew the weak points of every family member and knew how each would act. She knew she was driving a wedge between the family in these ways. She always had. She set up the 2 grandchildren, who she gave a pitiful sum of money to resent their sister, who was willed the large amount. She knew that grandchild would fight to hold on to her money and justify doing so. This one was quite selfish. She knew, the narcissist mother, that Jane would fall into despair about her future. She knew that Jane's sister would be angry about how her 2 boys were slighted in the will. She expected the family to go into battle, and this is exactly how she intended to control them from the grave. Fortunately, Jane had been recovering for a long time and moved through her despair moment fairly quickly. She got informed and presented in the family chat the document showing the narcissist's will was invalid. Then she asked the family whether they would come into agreement to make the previous will come into effect. That will gave everyone an equal amount. There was much talk and debate, and Jane's niece, the selfish one, fought for her huge chunk because she wanted to honour her grandmother's wishes, despite the evidence that the grandmother was mentally incompetent at the time. One of the things about being children or grandchildren of a narcissist is that no one is normal. Everyone has a wound. The bonds of love are not as healthy as someone brought up in a home with a healthy role model of parents. The group chat broke down. So hope came for Jane, because in her country there is a law called the Family Protection Act, which meant that the will maker was morally obliged to look after their immediate children's needs, especially if they were poor and unable to work and ill. So Jane mentioned this in the chat and asked for consideration. No one responded except for her sister and Jane's son, who wanted the will to be divided equally between the 2 sisters. And then the sisters could choose to give their children a monetary gift. So the family reaction gave Jane another fresh wave of grief and anxiety, and again it brought up the wound of abandonment. Contesting the will legally was something that was a really scary thought for her, so she spent a few days in a state of anxiety, wondering what she was going to do. The good thing for Jane is that she loves herself and is willing to fight for her needs and her right to do so. So Jane is about to go through another self-empowerment process over this will if there is no agreement between the family to share it equally. And she has the law of the country on her side. Her son, who would have got a big chunk of the will, was supportive, and Jane was so very grateful for that. So there is hope for Jane, and this is a developing story. Back to the controlling of the family by the narcissist. There is an emotional distance between Jane's sister and her daughter now. She sees the daughter as selfish and had no concern at all about her brothers, one wedge driven between them successfully by the narcissist. Jane and her son handled the situation in a very positive way, so the intended wedge didn't work for them. They had a plan for the future, and it brought them much closer. So in Jane's country, there is a legal path to resetting the allocation of the money according to the Family Protection Act, which I believe was created to set things right. So she has hope and the support of the Act. The deceased is expected to provide for Jane's needs according to the law. So wouldn't it be wonderful for Jane if all the punishing and manipulation the narcissist mother did by the will was completely stripped away from her and law took over to take care of Jane's needs? I'm looking forward to hear the outcome, and I will post it as a video. So why do they do that? Why do narcissists set the family up to not talk to each other after their death? It's because they don't want the unsuspecting family members finding out about how they abused their mothers in the past. By driving a wedge between the family, then supposedly they won't find out the truth. This narcissist mother even refused to have a service after she died. Again, it appears she didn't want the family to get together. However, they did create a memorial event, and although there was no discussion about the darker side, at least the family got to have some closure. So we'll find out for Jane what happens in the future. Is your narcissist mother playing favourites? Are you the black sheep of the family like Jane was? Do you know the laws of your country with regard to wills and estates? In Jane's country, it is standard for the estate to be divided equally among the direct children. What does your country do? Is there a legal remedy for you to follow so that if you are not provided for, can you use that remedy to get your needs met? Maybe you don't need anything and can do very well without any of the estate. But if you do, there could be hope for you. Find out. Also, find out if you can come to an agreement with the beneficiaries in the will to make it fair for you all. I do understand that a narcissist family have been so manipulated and brainwashed that that might not be an option. However, look up the laws. Find out if there is a strong guideline that will help you. If you need the funds for your future well-being, I suggest you get a quick free appointment to find out from a lawyer if there is a remedy possible for you, if you know the contents of the will. I know every country is different. The main thing about a narcissist mother dividing the family, you already know it's happening. When the narcissist has passed or a golden opportunity presents itself, begin mending the fences very gently, just by showing love towards your sisters or the family as a whole. A funeral is a perfect time to show your family that you value them. All of the family are in pain. They have been abused too, but in a way differently to you, perhaps. They may see the things the narcissist did to you in the past, or any other siblings, and you can bet it registered in their mind as wrong, but they learn to keep their mouths shut in order to stay in the good books. They would have spent the years denying their true nature to be the child the narcissist wanted. There is a cognitive dissonance inside them, which means on the one hand, they saw this and thought that's not right, but on the other hand, they're conditioned to believe it's acceptable and normal. They have their own healing to do. They need to find out who they are. And this often happens after the narcissist has passed away. So in time and with patience and gentle perseverance, relationships can be mended when one person, just takes one person, refuses to be in conflict with another. One person needs to step up and be the one to show the way. Or not. Perhaps the relationship has become so bad there is no hope for you. But I will say, I personally thought that about my own sister. Yet we found our way back together despite the manipulation of the narcissist. We have been comparing stories and found out a lot about the lies she has told both of us. As my mother has passed recently too, we are daily finding out more about these lies, and we are still getting to know who we each really are since we were estranged for many years. If you have no hope of any healing in your family, at least be the one who gives yourself the love and validation you need. Take the time to allow those wounds to heal. Let the emotions come up. Use lots of tissues. And then give yourself a hug and say, I love you. And be the mother you never had for yourself for a while. This is what I call reparenting. I'm going to make a video next on that subject. So subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications, and share this video out to people you know who might be going through the same. On any platform you're on, share this out, because we know every narcissist mother is going to die, and everyone needs to be prepared for their mother perhaps manipulating after they've passed. There is always hope for you to have a better future. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, I am sending you love.